So what do you tell companies who are thinking about migrating to the cloud and who are wary of what kinds of risks that entails?
So I think that one of the really interesting things is people try to get their head around sort of, and in our world, it's the data center compute and the apps and the data that you run on it. And people try and get their head around sort of, so I'm going to go and I'm going to take this thing that's been running in my data center for a decade, and I'm going to move it to AWS or to Azure, to real cloud infrastructure as a service. What does it mean for security? And the way that we try and describe it is, there's a difference. So to say that it's exactly the same problems, same challenges, same architecture would be incorrect. But there's something about the cloud that people forget, and in particular, infrastructure as a service. So things like running compute in AWS. You know, if you think about sort of like your neighborhood at home, you rely on a set of services that are sort of provided just by virtue of being there, right? There's a police department, there's a fire department, like there are all these things that are there. It's infrastructure effectively to protect you, to keep you safe. But the reality is that if you buy a home in a neighborhood, the police department doesn't come out and audit the locks on your front doors, whether or not you put in an alarm system. Do you want motion detectors? Are you paranoid enough that you think you need cameras in your house? Not only do they not come out and audit whether you do it, they don't really care if you do it or not. The house is yours. You decide how paranoid you are. You decide how much money you're willing to spend to secure it. But the neighborhood is their responsibility. And we try and say to customers, when you put your workloads, your applications, your data into a public cloud provider, try and remember that. They are responsible for providing a certain base level of infrastructure, security, service, the power, the connection. But at the end of the day, the workloads that you're running and the apps and the data you're putting on them, it's your responsibility, no differently than it is back in your data center. And I think the division of responsibility, sort of the rules of engagement for how to secure yourself in cloud, that's where a lot of the murkiness is, but it's not actually as complicated as people make it out to be. Solving those problems is obviously a little more challenging.